Hello and welcome to the coronavirus lockdown live stream, the show that brings welcome levity to the end of the world, lifting the spirits of many of you currently in self-isolation by infecting as many as possible with comfort and distraction as the apocalypse unfolds. I'm not sure how long I can keep up that Emperor Palpatine voice for. But gosh, 48 of you watching. How the heck are you? I've literally just thrown this together minutes before jumping on camera because I saw someone suggest it. You should dress up as a typical apostate as depicted in in that crazy radiation apps video that I did a rebuttal for, and I noticed so many of you have already. I can see Eric Larson there. Eric knows what I'm on about. He's there. He's changed his avatar to show the way apostates are supposed to look, and I figured, what the heck, life's too short. So this is literally Dijana's dressing gown. Yes, Dijana looks like Emperor Palpatine in her downtime. And I've massacred a little piece from one of her shawls, with her permission, of course, to make the Lone Ranger eye mask. So what do you think, folks? Let me know in the comments. Good grief. I'm not sure whether I can sustain an entire show in this getup because I'm going to be honest, looking like an apostate can be quite tedious on one's eyes, but I'll see how far I can go. So yes, let's see what we have here. Aileen Fawcett says, OMG, LOL, so funny. Jay Proctor says, yes, the hoodie and Lone Ranger mask. Trying to find it. You see, I'm already struggling to see through as the comments are scrolling in. Akim Walmer Schauser says, scary. Simon Instone says, unbeliever. A Drill says, this is already the best stream possible. We can all go home. It cannot be beaten. Well, thank you. I appreciate the optimism. Arthur, who may be joining us later, I think he has a link, but he's not in the green room yet, says, hello, Mr. Apostate. Nice costume. Yeah, Eric Larson saying, you finally unleashed your true self. Abigail Parker, you look like an Elizabethan executioner. I didn't even... Yeah, I suppose, yeah, with the axe, maybe. And Jay Proctor saying, proof you're an apostate on the internet. So I'm glad I've hopefully entertained some of you. I also hope that the stream isn't too glitchy. I know it has been in the past, but we shall see. I'm just scrolling through the comments just to make sure it's not too glitchy, but so far it doesn't seem to be too bad. Nice to see Kimmy in as well in the comments. Kimmy, you have the link. Please join us if you can and rescue the channel by showing a cat or taking something out of a box or combining the two. That will make my content monetizable. Okay, so I'm attempting to read through this ridiculous eye mask. This, by the way, is going to have to come off at least by the time I've finished reading the book, because it's going to be really hard to do the show. So enjoy it while you can. Okay, gosh, where was I? I think I was on Castaways. Yes, I was on Castaways. This is from page 96. For those who are told to leave their group for whatever reason, shame and guilt can be overwhelming. Rarely is expulsion perceived in the moment as fortunate, though some cult members have been known to beg their leaders to expel them because they see it as the only way out. Both walkaways and castaways may feel that they have failed God and lost all spiritual hope, or failed their political or philosophical commitments. Some may believe they are condemned not only in this life, but also in the hereafter, and perhaps for countless incarnations. As Steve Hassan writes in his landmark book, Combating Cult Mind Control. We had Steve on our last Watchtower in Focus. The people who have been kicked out are always in the worst shape of all former cult members. Most of them devoted their entire lives to the group, turning over bank accounts and property when they joined. They were told that the group was their family, which would take care of them for the rest of their lives. Then, years later, they were told that they were not living up to the group's standards and would have to leave. These people, phobic toward the world outside their cults, have been cast into what they view as utter darkness. Some groups deliberately use threats of expulsion as a means of controlling the membership. In one meditation group, for example, newcomers and established members are separated while the guru denounces those not present as being unspiritual, controlled by demons, and unworthy of his guidance or blessings. He elevates those who attend the meeting while at the same time demanding that they shape up or face the fate of the rejected group. Expulsions from this group are frequent and arbitrary, often forgiven and then threatened again for some trumped-up act of non-compliance. Likewise, in abusive relationships or family cults, the threat of abandonment or rejection is a powerful means of manipulation. Unless castaways receive counseling or at least some education about cults and the social psychology of influence, many are prone to suffer an extreme sense of loss and isolation, such as that portrayed here. George O., a high-ranking member of a small political cult, was encouraged to sell drugs to raise money for the group. When arrested, he found himself alone to shoulder the consequences, which included lack of financial support for legal expenses and a hefty jail term. Later, when he returned to the group, he was ejected because he dared to voice disappointment with the group's lack of support. Shunned and on his own, George yearned for the political highs he felt while in the group, the warmth and solidarity of his comrades, and the sense of elitism. George went into a deep depression. He felt he was a total failure and politically useless. Finally, allowed back after months of pleading and apologizing, he was placed on probation and given menial tasks. Shortly afterward, George was commanded by the leader to perform sexual acts on him. Totally demoralized, George was asked to leave the group again, with no explanation offered. Embittered and confused, he felt a combined sense of failure and loss, which led to an even deeper depression than before, pushing him to the brink of suicide. While in the cult, George found it impossible to question his superior's behavior or disobey orders. Only after leaving could he begin to analyze and question. His despair eventually led him to seek answers and see the group in a clear light. With this insight, he was able to mourn his losses and rebuild his life. I've been reading from a few pages from the healing process, which is chapter 6 of the book Take Back Your Life, Recovering from Cults and Abusive Relationships by Janja Lalich and Madeline Tobias. Highly recommended, and perhaps prescient advice for many of you watching, because obviously many who watch my channel have been involved in some cult or another, usually Jehovah's Witnesses. So, how long can I keep? There's no one in the green room. No one wants to join me. I'm all by my lonesome. Never mind. I've got all my live chat comments to keep me company. Unless, I know what's happened. Yes. Apologies to everyone that's been trying to join. That's why there's no one in the green room, because every now and then my phone does this weird thing where it won't update the WhatsApp on my computer. So that's what's happened. I must apologize. Okay. So I literally just have to press around on WhatsApp on my phone, and usually it fixes the problem. Yeah, now it's updated. So now they've all got the link. That's irritating. Because usually there's like a little tick when your message has gone through, but because I was in a rush, I just literally wrote out, here's the link, and forgot to wait for the tick. And if there's no tick, it's a clock. And it's usually a clock because the phone and the computer haven't been talking to each other. So sorry about that. There was shunning going on between my devices, but now there are people joining the green room. Let's bring in one of them. Arthur, how are you?
Hello. I am very good.
What's it like speaking to a real-life apostate?
Very, very convenient, because I'm also secret in apostate. But
you're not, are you, Arthur? You've never been in the religion. That's the whole point. You can't be an apostate.
Yeah, definitely. That's the tricky part. So, actually, I'm simultaneously a very well-mannered witness.
But what that means is that
apostate.
What that means is that when Jehovah's Witnesses watch this video on YouTube, they can say this. They can say honestly that at least one of the people they're watching isn't an apostate. So
true. And also, when still active Jehovah's Witnesses want to talk to me, they can do it with a clean conscience, because I'm not a former member of Jehovah's Witnesses.
So I'm just scrolling through, and Nilda Gomez says, take it off. It triggers me from that message that was sent to me. I don't know which message you're referring to. Jack Gray thinks it's an improvement. I assume he's referring to the new look. I don't know how long I'm going to go on for with this. The rider of the fifth horse. Yes, perhaps. Joel Brown, can't wait for your song, Arthur. John Christensen said the governing body must have a picture of you when they made their local news video. Well, that's precisely the point. The image that they showed in their local needs video looks nothing like any apostate. So I've had to jump through hoops to actually look like the way they've depicted me after the fact. Oh, that's a relief. Thank you, Randy. I was concerned about the audio and video. And Nana Brewer says I'm looking good. It's nice to have a Nana, isn't it? Brilliant. Homimum Cockroach on Twitch says, show your face! Okay,
no,
calm down.
The problem is that's one of the features of apostates. They act covertly.
Yes.
They act in secrecy. They don't want to. They want to shield their identity from guys like Paul Polidoro and his legal department.
You have already had your first request through for Sing Along with Arthur.
Yeah, I still would love Bohemian Rhapsody, Arthur. You can do it. Get everyone to join you as backup singers. Yes, Eric Larson actually made his request yesterday on the chat when we did the Choose Your Raps Wisely premiere. But for today, I prepared a different song, though.
You've got something different. It's quite challenging, Bohemian Rhapsody, isn't it?
Yeah,
even for your incredible range, Arthur. I would imagine that's
especially since my range reduced itself 2 weeks ago.
Stop talking yourself down again.
Anika I just want to be honest.
Says you don't need an axe, just a net for catching those little birds. Yes, that's apparently this is what bird catchers look like. Apparently, radioactive bird catchers, no less. Eric Larson says nobody has their apostle uniform on. Look, I don't expect everyone to change their avatars. I'm not going to keep mine the way it is forever. It's just a funny little inside joke, you might say. Yeah, everyone that joins gets infected with radiation. Welcome.
Excuse me, I want to add to this radiation, because radiation is actually energy, and the energy is when we're talking about the dynamic energy Jehovah's Spirit is manifesting, we are getting radiated with such great food, spiritual food on a Saturday afternoon.
See, I know what you're trying to do here, Arthur. You're trying to be triggering, but what you haven't reckoned
Gabrielle
on.
asked me to trigger her because she was very
You
eager
can't trigger
to.
me because I'm in my full apostate attire. When I have this, it gives me the superpower of not being able to be triggered by you.
Exactly. You're shielded from any
Exactly.
cultish influence.
So welcome to New Apostate 1980, who joins us for his first or her first live stream. Welcome. And presumably you're in Australia, given your choice of greeting. So welcome all the way from down under. Eric Larson says he's put the radiation symbol as his phone background. Yes, very wise, because probably if you're watching apostate content, it will be radioactive in some way. Anke Koopmans raises an interesting point here, Arthur, related to the sing-along aspect of the segment.
Yeah, can we all get the lyrics from your song, Arthur, so we can send in your own song and make a compilation of everyone? Yes, I will put the lyrics for today's song into the YouTube comments for this video.
Andre David Tanana says, "You're crazy in a good way. One day you may interview me. Just about to become JW. Gosh, about to become one."
I guess this is Andre David Tanana.
Do you know him?
No, I don't know him, but
okay. You're just correcting my pronunciation of the name.
Yes.
Good grief. Okay, fair enough. Denise Bartlett says, "What is your take on 12-step programs, cult, not cult?" I'm not a massive expert, but I have heard 12-step programs mentioned in the context of them being used to control people. So I'd just be a bit wary of any kind of program, really. Is it based on rational thinking and self-empowerment, or is there any amount of dependency or coercion involved? So it would really depend on the program itself.
Yeah, the structure and the mechanism and the psychological impact of it.
Tony Badger says, "Good morning and greetings from Washington. Wow, what the hell did I miss?" Tony, you need to watch my latest upload. All will be explained. So Hominum Cockroach on Twitch says, "Is an apostate a person who left of their own will, or does it have to be a person who is an activist against JW?" Interestingly, Arthur, I've had a little bit of pushback to, well, I say a little bit. I had one comment which I've pinned on my latest video, and it kind of reflects the way a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses feel. They don't like being referred to as apostates, or they reject the word apostate because of all of the stigma surrounding it.
Yes.
In Watchtower literature. But my attitude is, I'm not interested really in what Watchtower's definition of apostate is and the way they spin things. I'm interested in what the dictionary says. And when you look at the dictionary says
that it's someone
who leaves their religion. Exactly. Yeah. And that describes me. And my attitude is that if your religion happens to be abusive, corrupt, and exploitative, provided you have the means to do so, in other words, provided your life isn't in any danger, you have a moral duty to leave it.
Exactly.
So that's why I proudly embrace the word apostate, even though not many do. And I don't think that all apostates necessarily have to be activists. You can leave.
Of course not. Yeah.
You can leave and not involve yourself.
Carry on with your life and leave religion behind.
Yeah. You don't have to jump on YouTube immediately and start making videos. You can just, move on and enjoy life. So we're waiting for Kimmy. I've got to do something about this mask. Sorry, to do my head in. Oh. I feel like it's inhibiting my performance because I can't properly. That's so much better. You see, apostasy is difficult when you wear these things. I feel like, in many ways, I've been testing the theory that this is what apostates look like. And based on my experiments, no, it would not be practical for apostates to dress like that, because you'd constantly be squinting through holes in fabric.
Guess what?
The
governing body imagines that apostates go through all great lengths just to tear disciples from the truth.
Yes. Was that you trying to be triggering again, by the way? It's hard to tell sometimes. So yeah, let me find where I'm up to with my comments. Welcome to Chris and Wayne Prin from Canada. I think what everyone's waiting for, though, while we wait for Kimmy and or others to join, is some singing.
Okay.
How do you feel about doing that, Arthur?
I feel lovely.
Okay.
So for today, I was thinking about. I wanted to talk about dressing and not grooming, but only dressing.
When you say talking, do you mean singing about dressing?
No, first to talk.
No. That's not what you're here for, Arthur. You're here to sing. It's not
but
talk along with Arthur.
Want to make
sing
an
along
intro,
with Arthur.
To make an intro.
Oh, so this is your intro
to the song.
Okay, you're
because I want to explain how I came to think about doing this song.
Right.
And it's summer outside, it's warm, and guess what, dear viewers? What does Lloyd have on when it's summer? His
thong.
His shorts. His shorts. And I also remembered about some pioneering experience in La Ville de la Lumière in Paris. And what do you get when you combine shorts with Paris? You get a very well-known song from 1983, but which is being applied to field service, pioneering, and a lovely French expression. Comment ça va? And
that's delightful, Arthur. I can see you've done this before.
Okay, do we have audio?
If you've ticked the box, we should have audio.
I hope so. Let me see. Okay. Fudge. 1 second. No, something is... okay.
Arthur dropping an F-bomb there, further risking the monetization of this video. Albeit fudge.
Yeah, it's fudge. Fudgy Scout cookies. Okay, and share and audio on, and it goes like this. Dewey, did you hear it?
I heard it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then music, maestro. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité sans l'esprit de Jéhovah. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité sans l'esprit de Jéhovah. Field service in Paris, mid to week afternoon, thinking about a new song, humming to its tune,
And then a young French girl approached me, asked for a brochure. I thought she was attractive, dressed in haute couture. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme si, comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité. Son l'esprit de Jéhovah. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme si, comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité. Son l'esprit de Jéhovah. Preaching still in Paris. Jehovah's truth is plain. Planning return visits down along the Seine. I saw the girl returning, and I began to sweat. I'd invite her to the meeting, one she won't regret. She came and she was happy. We talked for another hour. I felt Jehovah's blessing by the Eiffel Tower. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme si, comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité. Sans l'esprit de Jéhovah. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme si, comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité. Sans l'esprit de Jéhovah. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme si, comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité. Sans l'esprit de Jéhovah. Comment ça va? Comme si, comme si, comme si, comme ça. Tu ne comprends la vérité. Sans l'esprit de Jéhovah. Thank you.
I'm speechless. What to say, really? There was music and there was singing, and there was music and singing, and lots of it was very rhythmic, and yeah, there were words and very much the singing as well. So yes, you definitely provided singing, true to the nature of the segment, and certainly, well, there you go. Mark John saying superb, Arthur. Amanda Rodriguez saying bravo. Rianne says, OMG, I have to cook dinner, but I'm laughing all the time. Tony Badger says, oh la la, mon oil, son de saignement demain. Gabrielle says, wow, oh wow, thank you for singing in French.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
No applause. Sorry, I must include the applause. That was very rude of me. I do apologize. Hominum Cockroach says, very nice, thank you, Arthur. Lubu88 thought it might have been dystopian. Matthias Subhash says, La vérité,
très bien.
Très bien. You see, rolling your R's is even harder when I think someone's speaking to him. Let's study his face. Someone's speaking to him in the background.
No, I'm back. Sorry.
That's okay. Everything okay? I don't want you to miss the applause that you're receiving from the live chat. Aurea79 says, I love the singing. Beetroot Soup says, the look on Lloyd's face was so funny. I don't know what you're talking about. Doda Gaia says, bravo. definitely a bravo there. And Jan Burnett says, excellent, Arthur, and you have such a wonderful French accent. Sounded so authentic. Well, there you
Oh,
go.
merci beaucoup. C'est très joli.
Rianne says it was brilliant. Gabrielle says, Lloyd, you need to learn French. But do I, Gabrielle? Because here's the thing. I live in Croatia and I don't fully speak Croatian. I think Croatian is the priority before learning French. My reasons to speak French, apart from arguably the benefits of being able to speak it for my channel, are limited to the occasional fleeting drive through Calais. I'm just not in the country enough to need to know the language, but I would love to be able to speak it. If you could do like in the Matrix where they plug you in and now I can speak French, I'd do it definitely. Nilda Gomez likes your singing face, Arthur. She's unclear on your non-singing face, but at least your singing face, she feels she can really get in. Oh, sorry.
I'm really getting into it.
You really get in. Sorry, I thought she meant your face for a moment there. Okay. And Denise says, wow, beautiful Arthur. Now, I feel at this point Mark is taunting us. I feel as though, to a degree, he might be leaving me in the lurch somewhat to shoulder the hosting responsibilities here, and maybe enjoying the spectacle without feeling any pressing urgency to.
Yeah, he probably hasn't resonated with the calling in Romans chapter 8.
Margareta Kvikstrom says, "Oh la la, mon Dieu, merci." Did I pronounce that correctly, Arthur?
Mon Dieu, merci. Oh la la,
he
mon
can't
Dieu,
even give me a
merci.
yes or no. He just leaves me hanging.
Well, I wanted to provide the proper pronunciation so you can try to imitate the pronunciation from my side.
Okay.
That's everything.
Ramona has a question for you, Arthur.
Arthur, German next? Ja, vielleicht. Ich werde mich nachdenken.
Lisa needs a crep. I need... Yeah, I'll get in on that action and a few other things as well are needed for me.
Yeah, actually, everybody has to know Dijana makes lovely crepes.
She does, doesn't she? Yeah, she actually learned the recipe from a friend of ours in Germany. We were visiting and we tasted some very delightful pancakes and we decided to get the recipe, and that's how we have our pancakes now. Denise Bartlett says, always upping your game. John says it went great with his cup of coffee. I'll take a drink myself, but probably not the coffee. Annalise Wilson says, Arthur really gets in that shorts to sing French.
Wow, thank you, Annalise.
What Arthur isn't telling anyone, says Jay, is that Romanian is also a Romance language, just like French is. And we are joined to give her thoughts on Arthur's singing, Kimmy.
Oh, just in time. Hi, Arthur. Hi, Lloyd.
Hi, Kimmy.
Hi, viewers.
Did you
Say
manage
hi to Patches?
Oh, Patches, fantastic.
Hello, Patches.
So Patches is obviously rescuing the channel at this point because, as we all know, YouTube only likes videos with cats or things being taken out of boxes or makeup.
Right.
And so Kimmy is providing one of those elements already.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Only been on a few seconds and already adding value to the channel. So thank you for that, Kimmy.
You're welcome. Don't dock my pay for being late.
But we do need to hear your thoughts on Arthur's singing.
All right. Did he already sing?
Oh, you've not seen it?
Oh, I didn't see it. I was getting my computer and cat. So
well, watch the replay.
I watched the replay.
Have lots of alcohol to hand, and you're in for a treat.
I do have a limerick.
Do you have a limerick? Fantastic,
yeah.
Because we don't have Sasha. Obviously, it's a difficult time. I say difficult. Sounds like there's a tragedy going on. It's not good in terms of time zones.
Yeah, I just got Australia. Trying to find it on my phone. So
maybe if you can take. Oh, am I glitching again? Maybe if you can
A bit.
take over the Sasha's Poetry Corner, and I do have one little limerick to add.
Okay.
So we'll do it that way.
All right. I found it.
Okay, bear with me.
Perfect.
Staying at home's an act of kindness, so we don't get or give others this virus. But I can't wait for the day I can go out and play. Until then, I will continue to stay in and be mindless.
Wonderful.
The end.
Bravo. Excellent.
The total 2 minutes worth of effort this morning for your viewers.
No, that was very good. And I actually have I'm still glitching. Damn you.
It's extra ominous with you in that hood, Lloyd, when you glitch.
What should I do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the camera on Arthur, and I'm going to refresh. So I'll be back in just a few seconds. Arthur, take it away.
Yes, thank you for this, Lloyd. While we are waiting for Lloyd to get undressed and get dressed into his elder persona, why don't we think about some lovely blessings we had yesterday from the faithful slave by means of the Choose Your Apps Wisely video.
How's he doing, Kimmy?
Poorly, Lloyd. Very poorly.
It's that bad, is it?
Triggering. He hasn't learned this far into
the
live stream lockdown or lockdown live stream.
I do apologize. So there's we've received a limerick from one of my patrons, Bob. And the limerick goes thus: there is a false prophet called Tony. His religious teachings are phony. He hops on TV for the masses to see and woke a great crowd with his baloney. Well done, Bob.
Very good, Bob.
So, yes.
And
two
he kept it
limericks.
clean.
He did. He kept it clean. It was.
It would be wrong. Would it be wrong to start one with "There once was a Tony from Nantucket"?
No, it's a good limerick. Thank you, Bob. And so we get 2 limericks into Sasha's Poetry Corner. I think that that's a good showing, personally, considering there is no Sasha. So we've done well there. Debbie Aquino says, "Way to go, Bob." Misty Rose says, "Love your look, Lloyd. I can't promise I'll be wearing this in future videos. I just think I couldn't miss the opportunity to show how ridiculous this whole thing would be. I mean, imagine if every ex-witness appeared in videos like this. It's just not going to happen."
Well, we all have avatars. Mark made mine last night, and Sasha's and Sherry's. I have to change my profile image. It's a nice kind of movement almost. We all have the avatars, and
it's a little bit like when Sparlock happened. Everyone suddenly, it was Sparlock everywhere. You know, it's nice when we can, when Watchtower inadvertently provides humor that we can all just jump on and own for ourselves, you know.
And we have another limerick.
Uh-oh.
Oh, here we go. Hang on.
Apostates produce radiation, infecting apps across the nations. Keep your apps healthy. You'll be spiritually wealthy. The elders will bring you ovation.
Very good.
See what I started, Lloyd.
I just wrote it this very
instant. Did you write it? Am I going to find that someone else has forwarded it in and you've stolen it?
Is it really yours, Arthur?
Yeah.
Okay, good job.
We wrote it just now.
But you had this look on your face like you were, doing something wrong. So we thought maybe.
Oh.
Lancer Choate says, "A little glitchy and a bit of a delay." Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I've tried refreshing. I don't really know what else I can do, really. I do apologize. So it's irritating. What I need, of course, is a producer. And seriously, I'm thinking about getting a producer at some point for my live streams, but we'll see how things go. I'm not there yet. A certain John Redwood says, "I'll be joining as soon as I return from field service."
If field service is a late breakfast, then okay.
Oh, all right. Is he eating one of his pastries, Kimmy?
No, he's moved into microwavable, high quality meals, like with eggs and broccoli and ham. So, but Mark has to have a little something in the morning.
Am I allowed to tell the pastry story to our viewers?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, please do.
So it was back in April of 2017, and we were in London for the first filming for The Truth About the Truth, and we had to get to another part of London for the reveal conference, and we knew that there would be breakfast there. So Trey Bundy and others had arranged this conference all about child sex abuse, and lots of people were invited, including Erwin Zalkin, various other ex-Jehovah's Witness activists, lawyers, even someone was there from the Charity Commission. And no expense had been spared in terms of breakfast. So when you got there was a full array of anything you could need in terms of breakfast. But Mark basically refused to get in the Uber until he'd had his pastry. He said, "No, I've just got to get a pastry in the mornings. Is there any way we can get a pastry?"
Yeah. In his defense, his blood sugar drops, and he.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he gets sick. And also, I don't know that Mark, when he told me the story, he never said he was aware of a breakfast spread at the reveal
we told
conference.
him. We did tell him, but
he was then it really was. He was hungry.
That we couldn't move until he'd had his pastry. Yeah, it was quite funny.
So Mark will be forever tormented with, "I need a pastry."
And if he complains about me telling that story, I'll just say, well, that's what happens when you're late. I've got to fill for time. So Denise Bartlett, yes, we do need to make this a little bit coronavirus related. Let's not forget. And Denise Bartlett says, virus news, my state governor put WWE wrestling as an essential business. No audience, just big guys not using social distancing. Florida, USA. Interesting.
I will say Florida is coming ahead in some really poor decisions. I read this morning they have opened like Jacksonville Beach. They've reopened a couple other beaches, and they said as long as you social distance, but the pictures show everybody crowded together on the beaches. They want to reopen the schools, and their numbers are still skyrocketing. So yeah, I'm scared for people in Florida. Wear a mask if you still live there.
Gabrielle Spedding says, how are things in Europe? Are you still chasing toilet paper? We've not been chasing it in my part of Europe. I don't know about Arthur. I believe he's been down to the 2-ply.
Yeah, 2-ply and 1-ply, but we do have enough toilet paper.
Is it just Americans then? Because my local Safeway grocery store, we haven't had it in 8 weeks. The giant Mark goes to for his mother, none. I have found it, but I've had to go to multiple stores. And my friend just put a post up. She lives in Howard County. She can't find toilet paper for her and her little son. It's just insane over here. And the other thing that's off our shelves now is ice cream. Haven't had ice cream in like 2 weeks.
I can imagine. I mean, we laugh about it, and I've obviously put it as the backdrop. Some toilet paper. It's obviously funny, but there's also a serious side in that. It is something that people need, and it's something that it seems is in short supply purely because of irrationality and people hoarding, basically. Yeah. So I can imagine it being very frustrating. In my part of Croatia, the shops have no shortage of it. I can only assume it's kind of more of an American and Australian and British thing, because I know they've had a similar problem in Australia, according to Sasha. So.
The funny part is, here's the statistics. They said that we bought a year's worth of toilet paper in 4 weeks. We bought 8 months worth of flour in 9 days. I mean, it's just like crazy when you think about it that way, And then in Australia, I don't know if you guys saw in the news, a gentleman had bought 150 32 packs of toilet paper and 100 1-liter bottles of sanitizer, and he tried to return it to the grocery store. And the manager gave him the middle finger and refusing his return. Here in America, we haven't for the last 6 weeks, they are not taking any returns back in any store anywhere. But yeah, so people and in America, if they know that you bought all that, they are seizing it. The federal government is coming to your warehouse or to your home and taking it. So yeah, it's crazy. Hopefully it gets better soon. We're starting to see some promising numbers.
I think there's a happy balance, isn't there? Because to a degree, when you're in a lockdown situation, the whole point of being in lockdown is that you're limiting the amount of visits out. So it makes sense to buy more than the usual amount of commodities and food and that kind of thing. So what Dijana and I have been doing,
overboard
exactly.
Yeah.
We've been buying
30 days. 30 days.
We've been buying half a month's worth in each shopping trip, and that's worked well for us. But we've certainly not been hoarding anything or depriving others of it.
Lloyd, are you guys having shortages of anything? Like it's even difficult to find cleaners and disinfectants.
No,
bleach, any sort of Lysol cleaner.
We did briefly have some shortages of disinfectant, and I think I showed on the recent video. You could go to the pharmacist and buy like a tiny 100 milliliter bottle, and it was like $3 or $4.
Okay.
But at least there was some available, you know.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and Dijana went yesterday to one of the supermarkets, and they were selling the gel hand sanitizer. So even that, it's getting back up and running. Before we invite Mark on, I've been asked to say I am the Senate. Let me see what I can do. I am the Senate. If not for the glitches, that might have worked, but there we go. And let's add.
The audio was great.
Okay, good. And there we have Mr. O'Donnell, who's pastried up and ready to roll.
Hey guys, yeah, I ran all the way back. I just got back from field service, so
here we go.
Sorry, I've got to.
Oh, good grief! There he is.
Take off my my gear here.
There he is. He's doing his showman thing.
Hang on a second. I'm sorry. Are you guys interested in some magazines?
Consolation. Wow.
5
I would
cents,
actually like that for my collection. Yeah. For 10 cents, definitely. Definitely.
I heard him offer it, Lloyd.
Well, special today only 5 cents a copy.
Wow, you're being generous, or actually, Jehovah's Hand is generous today.
It would be in the mail on Monday, Lloyd. I heard that was a verbal agreement, a verbal contract.
Well, not only that, Kimmy, but there are currently 97 on the live stream who have seen Mark offer me his issue of consolation for 10 cents. So I have 97, 98, 99, 100 witnesses to that. So
I guess you're on his magazine route.
It would seem. It would seem.
And then he's going to turn in a time slip after 6 years.
Well, these consolations are like trading cards. They're almost like cash. So, Lloyd, if you want to trade some things here, I've got I've got a lot more where this came from.
I think I do have one or two consolations. Yeah, but
yeah. Here's
I don't have that one. Yeah, with the American flag on
this is quite a famous cover. So imagine the Awake magazine today. If you had this is the flag case. So of course, this is quite famous. This was 1940. Wow. So this is when Watchtower lost the original Gobitis case, and for 3 years before they ended up going back to the Supreme Court, like 76 years ago in 1943. They ended up winning in 1943 in the West Virginia versus Barnett case. But this is where they really threw a stink here because they lost, and that meant that schools had a right to send children home for not saluting the flag. So if we're stretched for time, we can talk about that.
We're not that stretched. We're not that stretched, but no, that is interesting.
I only remember there was an Awake or a Watchtower in 1997-ish with the UN logo on the cover.
Mm-hmm. What year, Arthur?
In the mid-90s somewhere. 1997, I guess.
Yeah,
that year.
So right. That's funny because I was baptized in 84, And before and during that time and after that time, there was a great deal of, venom towards the United Nations. But let's see, Lloyd, Arthur, what was the year? And Kemi, what was the year that was it? Was it the early 90s that
92, between 92 and 2001, they were
they were an NGO?
to the Office of Public Information at the United Nations, or Department of Public Information. Yeah, DPI.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So anybody that's watching that wants to look that up, Jehovah's Witnesses they were a non-governmental organization accredited by the United Nations, which is the very same organization that they said was the 8th world power of Bible history.
Yeah, the image of the wild beast.
It was the image of the wild beast, Revelation chapter 17. You got your Revelation 13, which is your wild beast, and then you got your Revelation 17, which is your image of the wild beast.
Yeah.
Yes. Got your theocratic history all lined up there, Arthur. Good job.
Robert Conway says, Mark is the best. Pastries deserved. I was telling them the pastry story before, Mark, but I had no choice because I had to spill for time. So I kind of threw you under the bus there.
About 2017.
I think the viewers might agree with me that, like, when you have like an hour trek across London and I didn't know there was going to be a breakfast or anything.
Yeah,
we were telling you there was going to be breakfast. We said there's going to be breakfast there.
Yeah, so I don't go anywhere without having at least a coffee or a Danish or a banana before I go trekking off across town, because you don't want me in that kind of mood, Lloyd. Urgh.
No. Well, I like a man who sets his boundaries and has very clear boundaries and lets everyone know where he is.
You know what? And I remember telling you guys, because look, I would have taken my own Uber or train across town. As a matter of fact, let's see. No, I guess did we Uber together to the London event? Because I took off from our Airbnb and went down the street and said, I'll just catch up with you guys. Just, because you guys weren't ready yet. I took off and went down the street and got my own pastry, right? And then we reconvened and somehow we ended up at the Reveal conference together.
Back on the toilet paper discussion, Paul Majeski says, man who bought $10,000 worth of toilet paper and hand sanitizer denied refund.
Wow.
And Amber Lee makes a good point. What sucks is for parents, they have hoarded baby wipes as well. I remember seeing one kind of tearful video of a mother who couldn't find nappies, and I can imagine that being actually quite a harrowing experience, when all you want is... Yeah, when all you want to do is just care for your children, and people's greed is stopping you from doing that. I can imagine that being very distressing.
I haven't seen baby wipes in a month on any of the grocery store shelves, and I pop in a lot because of having to get stuff for, my dad and my uncle who's cancer, and it's just very weird. It's like, you can't flush those.
Yeah.
Well, Kimmy, did you see our one of our friends this morning posted on Facebook that she can't get toilet paper? She's a single mom.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything. So you saw that, right? So she's a single mom and she can't get toilet paper anywhere. And, some people are just.
And she's an essential employee, so she's still working during the week full time. She has a young son. So in order to go, she'd have to take her son into the store, which is they're asking you not to do if you don't have to. So, yeah, but a neighbor stepped up and has given her some to get through. So it's nice to see community pull together. Because otherwise I was going to mail her some. So
Joelle Brown says, here in Australia, a guy tried to get a refund on thousands of dollars of loo paper. Seems to be quite a common thing around the world. And again, it's just extremely greedy behavior. It's putting people at a disadvantage.
I don't understand, Lloyd. If they're that greedy, somebody wants $10,000 refund or whatever it was for all this toilet paper. If a person's, that low that he would collect that much toilet paper, wouldn't you expect that same person to turn around and try to sell it for a profit instead of just going back for a refund? I feel like
probably tried, Mark. That's what's happening. They all bought this stuff well in advance, and then they try to sell it on eBay, on Amazon, on local marketplaces, and then they get caught. Amazon shut that down here in America. eBay shut that down here in America. But what happened here in America is then the federal government would go after these people that had those large shipments for the whole price gouging, and then would take their shipment. I don't know how it is in Australia. They're like, can't sell it, I'll return it. then the store is not taking it back. So, however, if the store needs the inventory and their customers are standing in line and they need the inventory, it's like a catch-22. Like, do you take it back? But then you'd have to disinfect it all. So I don't know.
And they don't want
Victoria
to
Roberts says, where I live, the little local corner shops have had a good supply of toilet paper. Good to hear, Victoria. John Christensen says, for some reason, Safeway here in Northern California has the same issue with toilet paper. Sid Whittle says, but a positive, my car is getting 2 months to the gallon. Yes, that's at least one mercy, is that we're not spending as much on fuel, are we?
2 months to the gallon. Oh, that's great.
And it's crazy cheap right now. Like in the US, I know this has always been like 5 times cheaper than it is in Europe, but I think it was $1.80, $1.89 the other day at a local station, and I know it's been cheaper per gallon. So that's like, I mean, a few years ago it was almost $4 per gallon.
I paid $1.59 yesterday for gas.
Well, we have a different concern, which is that whenever we have gone out, it's always been in our car, Dijana, and the car that Dijana and I use. Whereas Dijana's parents, because we've been running errands for them, they've not needed to go out at all, and we're now wondering whether their car is going to suffer because it's not being used for like weeks. Whether
you got to drive it and charge the battery.
Just run it up and down the hill a little bit, perhaps, just to keep it going. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one other good thing that's happening here, though, is the car insurance companies are, for the most part, if you're in states where they've had the shelter-in-place order, the stay-at-home order, they're returning like 20 to 25% of your car insurance for the month of March and April. So that's good. That is one positive.
Indeed.
Now, if only they could actually get the stimulus checks out, like they've said, not everyone's getting them. They've sent stimulus checks to dead people. They've sent money to wrong accounts. It's kind of crazy here. Are they doing any sort of stimulus in Europe, Lloyd?
There's been stuff that you can do through the UK government. I don't know what the situation is in Croatia, because my business is a UK business, but I've kind of looked into it and thought, you know what, I probably am going to be affected in some way, but nowhere near to the extent that people who aren't already working from home are affected. So I'm keeping a close eye on things, but I would consider it dishonest to apply for a stimulus check if there isn't a noticeable difference in the way things are for my channel, Right. And unfortunately, my patrons have really been coming through for me, even with all of the YouTube nonsense. In fact, especially after the YouTube nonsense came to light, they really came through for me. So again, I would feel dishonest trying to go for anything that's intended for people who are genuinely without because of what's happening. So I'm leaving that for now, or at least until
in America, it's automatic. Everyone they're supposed to be. Everyone gets it with certain stipulations, but someone like my father who really needs it, is on Social Security, has still been waiting for it. But we'll see what happens.
Nilda Gomez says no disinfectants anywhere in Miami. Eileen Fawcett says Canada, Ontario is on mandatory lockdown for 30 more days. Well supported from our government. Very thankful. What's the situation for lockdown in America? Because I've heard talk that that Trump is in favor of getting America back open again, or something like that.
Who is Trump?
Yeah, Trump is. Mark's being silly.
But we're not allowed to criticize said president, apparently, according to some comments.
He is basically, as of Thursday, Trump has given the governors power to open the state on their own, but they have a couple of requirements, like the number of cases of coronavirus have to be on a steady decline for 14 consecutive days. You have to have enough testing kits. You have to have some contact. Maryland wants to have contact tracing in place, and then they're going to do it in phases, where those that are vulnerable are still going to have to shelter in place until the third phase. So that could be months of our elderly and immunocompromised people being stuck in home. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd imagine there's still a lot of uncertainty there, isn't there, as to how long the whole lockdown situation is going to stay in place. I think the consensus in the UK seems to be caution. We want to get this right, and we need to make sure that we've allowed us enough time, because if we don't allow enough time, could make things worse. You know.
Did you see the TV doctors yesterday in America?
Dr. Phil was saying so.
Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz both are in favor of opening the economy because it's more important, and only 2 to 3% of our population would die. It's like,
yeah, it's very strange reasoning.
Yeah,
you
is
wonder...
that the comment that Dr. Oz walked that back, though? I heard that he walked back one of those statements that he made. I'm not sure about Phil, though.
If you think about it, I mean, I've heard that kind of Hollywood is on just total shutdown at the moment, as you can expect. They can't get anything done. So I can imagine people in show business being a little bit more twitchy to get back to work. So I wonder whether there isn't a bit of bias going on when you hear celebrities speaking along those lines, because they want to get back to work, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Eric Larson.
Eric, don't start.
Unlimited power. I think that's how it went.
Unlimited authority, I think is what he said. But
I exchanged a brochure.
We can never get unlimited power because Jehovah is up there, and he.
Unfortunately, we've lost Arthur's mic. It must have muted itself while he was in the middle of saying something incredibly triggering. So there we go.
Yeah, you lost some viewers there for a minute, Lloyd.
Indeed. Eric Larson says, Lloyd hasn't been to a Kingdom Hall meeting lately, though, so Mark should stop giving him magazines. So I'm catching up now on the comments from when Mark joined. There's just so many comments coming through, which is really nice to see. And I actually think this might be the most attended live stream we've done yet, because it's now like on 104, and it's
for
been
Facebook.
Going even. I credit Mark for that. I've noticed that he has a massive following, and I feel in some ways as though I'm sponging off him for that. I feel bad.
Yeah, it's
I think
just
it's our
like
cats, Lloyd, really.
Yeah, Mark, Lloyd is more like a Tony Morris. Mark is more like David Splain kind of guy.
He's actually close to Brother Sanderson's age, so did I say brother? Ooh.
So it's funny, I mean, sometimes we all self-loathe, and I used to be that David Splain kind of guy, like in the congregation, trying to explain prophecy, and then when I eventually woke up and realized that it's all BS. I look back and I absolutely cringe at some of the things that I used to say, back when I was in the organization. In fact, I found I was going through my cassette tapes. I don't know if anyone knows what these are.
I know.
I'm just kidding. I found I found a lot of talks from like a former circuit overseer. I think, let's see, one of them was Charles Jackson, Miles Wilson. So I found a talk from like 1986, 87 from this circuit, and he ended up being a district overseer. I think it was Charles Jackson. And he came to our Kingdom Hall and gave this talk where he did the continuing the things that you learned. I don't know if you guys remember that, but so continuing the things learned, it was like, if you had a Tuesday meeting, then you had the Thursday meeting with the CO, and he would discuss these really, at the time we thought they were really interesting Bible questions. And so, go through a list of maybe 20 questions, and you might have that list ahead of time, and then you do your research, and then you would raise your hand and comment on all of these different questions. And I don't have any clips queued up, or I would play them, but they're really interesting. And then I'm listening to this, and I realized that I have a cassette recording of the entire meeting. And then I hear, and Brother O'Donnell in the rear, and I proceed to rattle off this long, ridiculous comment. I don't even remember what it was. I've got to find a clip for you guys, but I rattle off this long comment that I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that, I was just so embedded and overwhelmed with this system of beliefs. But I think we all, to some degree, and, I'm sure you guys would agree, we've either given public talks or comments or, preach to people in one form or another, and we were on that other side of the fence. We really did.
My brother's not a witness. Oh, sorry, Mark. So my brother.
No, that's good.
My brother, who he left when he was 17, it took him a while kind of to get away from to deal with all of the being raised in this cult. But he loves to make fun of me, about that's when he used to talk about how stoic I was and how
righteous Kimmy.
Self-righteous Kimmy. That's why he likes to make fun of me. Tongue in cheek, but I was definitely, I would make sure that I pointed that out to people when they were doing stuff that was wrong.
Colin Mesher says, please play the tape. Good grief. Goodness knows what's on that tape.
Hey, Colin.
Hey, Colin.
And Denise Bartlett saying, Mark, the voice of reason.
And Arthur, the voice of
can't live up to those standards.
Arthur, the voice of what?
Of an angel.
Mark, the voice of reason. Arthur, the voice. So, okay, there's a comment that I'm just trying to find. There's so many comments coming through, and I'm trying to do them justice to the extent that I can. Patty Henry, sorry to obscure Mark and Kimmy with this comment. Hi, Lloyd. Having experienced a JW horror story at the age of 17 to 20 many moons ago in the 1970s with unfortunate reverberations to this day, loved and missed family members have been swallowed whole by the JWs. I was delighted to discover your advocacy several years ago. Never thought I'd see the day. I don't lose hope that my family members might one day recover, but it is a central heartbreak. Shine a light on these abuses. Your work is so appreciated. Thank you. Well, that's a lovely comment. Thank you, Patty. And I'm sure we can all relate to the pain and heartache of being without people who we know should be in our lives and would be in our lives, if not for the fact that their minds are not their own.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. Someone asked at work yesterday that knows my experience. He asked me if I miss, anything about my time as a witness, and I would be dishonest if I didn't admit that, I miss sometimes that sense of community, the feeling that I was, saving the world, but also, I miss my friends. And, Mark and I left, our friends that were already out, they never thought we would leave. And so I know that, we're going to have other people that are going to leave at some point and reach out to us. We've already had it happen. So, I suggest don't ever lose hope and leave yourself public so that people can find you.
Yeah,
indeed. Good advice. Jennifer Wienick says, I recently had a friend who has been out of the organization for over 2 decades return to Watchtower, send me a message asking me to go back to Jehovah. The end is nigh and she doesn't want me to die at Armageddon. She also sent me links to articles and, of course, jw.org. Sad. Well, this, unfortunately, is bound to happen when people don't do the research. And this is what we've been saying in a number of episodes now. It's one thing to leave. It's one thing to realize intuitively that the organization isn't true and that you're being conned. It's another thing entirely to, what's the word I'm looking for? To consolidate that position by debriefing yourself properly, by giving your brain the material it needs so that when things like the coronavirus happen or when there is some disaster, your brain is able to trace information that will debunk the JW narrative. And I think it's really sad when one of the things that I'm always going to remember from this whole coronavirus thing, which will pass, by the way, is the way that it did prompt witnesses, or at least anecdotally, it did prompt at least some ex-witnesses to go running back into the arms of the organization.
Yeah, because these situations trigger in the minds of some who didn't disconnect themselves fully from the JW narrative.
You look like you were going to say something there, Mark.
Oh, no, I don't know. Arthur distracted me with a very good point, which is that you have to disconnect completely or you run the risk of going back. And I remember when I left, I knew there was no going back. And that's a difficult position to take because many are so tied by family that they go back. I mean, there's friends of ours that we thought they've left the congregation for sure, that, you know, they're going to get in contact with us. And then we hear that a year later, they've been reinstated. We have one friend who's been disfellowshipped 3 or 4 times. And, you know, he was out, and we thought that he was going to get in contact with us. And, you know, I'm trying not to give away too much information here, but he went back, and the magnetism of family, of just being around people when the alternative is to think that there's nothing on the other side. And when you have the organization convincing you that all of your friends outside of the organization are not your real friends, they're you know, controlled by Satan. They want to give you drugs. They want to, you know, twist your mind and take you in a direction that is destructive, when in fact it's really just the opposite. And I don't know if it's a large majority, but we've seen a number go back. And like Arthur said, if you're not fully disconnected, I think the first thing that I thought of when I left the religion was, there is some psychology to this, because I have no other explanation for why I was so controlled by this religion, being a believing member for 46 years. There is some psychology to religion, religious belief, some sort of control over the mind that results in a person sticking with it for so long. And obviously there are the obvious attachments, the family, you know, you don't want to lose your mother, father, brothers, sisters, etc. But outside of that, what is the real attachment? I think so many people would have long ago left the organization were it not for these familial attachments that they have. And in some ways, who can blame them for wanting to be with their family, especially if they've had trouble throughout their life? Maybe they've suffered with alcoholism or whatever. You know, everyone has something, everyone. And whatever their struggles are, they felt that they needed to go back to where they had this companionship, this group setting, this love bombing, this, you know, and it's hard. And there are some cases, especially with older people, where I almost say that, I mean, look, it's never too late to get out, but I can understand why some just, you know, towards the end, it almost doesn't make sense, given the fact that they could lose everything at the end of their life. And I'm talking about, you know, an elderly person that, you know, it's sad. You know, I'm just trying to be respectful of both sides of the issue, but
yeah, because they feel the comfort within the organization, especially at the end of their lives,
which only reinforces that it's for me, it's predominantly about research. I think you need to, again, give yourself the tools, the mental tools, to fight off the kind of alarmism that you get from doomsday groups when bad things happen. But you also need to, almost from the get-go, work on reestablishing some kind of social network, because that's a massive deal. When you leave a group, immediately you have to reinvent your life and find new friends, and to a degree new family. And the extent to which you're successful in doing that will dictate largely how susceptible you are to later being, you know, enticed back into the group, because, you know, it's one less thing that they have over you, you know.
That's what, that was the one thing I did. Now, Mark, of course, he left 13 months before I did. And then when I finally decided that, you know, I wasn't going to go back, because I was going for a few months where I was fully awake, thinking I was staying for friends. And then that's the first thing I did, is I said, we need social connection. So I started reaching out to people that had already previously left before us, reestablished relationships with cousins of mine that weren't witnesses, and, you know, made sure that we had some sort of social network, because that was a common thread, that people that had returned after 15, 20, even 25 years was they came back for friends or family. And with that being said as well, a lot of these doomsday groups are taking advantage of, you know, this coronavirus and other things that are going on. Leaders try and control members by fear. So we even had a recent friend who's PMO. She reached out to me because, you know, was scared that what if they were right? You know, what if Armageddon is coming? What if this is the start of the Great Tribulation? And, you know, I had to help explain to her that, you know, that's an emotional reaction that's normal because she was raised in this group, and that, it, you know, not to use her brain and to think through it and you apply critical thinking. And then that really helped her see that, you know, wow, I'm not alone in these thoughts. You know, don't feel bad for having those thoughts, but don't give in to those thoughts. Really understanding, you know, like we talked about, how, you know, this influence happens from these controlling groups, and how hard it is to get out of that and deprogram from it. And then that's, you know, find things that you like, who you are authentically, and that really can make a difference.
Indeed. Gordon Wheelock, a friend of mine, nice to see you, Gordon, says, I found my old public talk on a CD. I nearly puked. Interesting story. I have somewhere under this roof a CD of me giving a public talk against evolution. And if I could immediately materialize an object in front of me that I know I still have, but I've lost, it would be that CD, because it's just crying out for me to do a rebuttal of myself.
That would be great, Lloyd.
But so every time now I see an old CD, I immediately kind of examine it to see if it's the one that I'm missing. But
my thoughts on Elder Lloyd Evans's public talk.
I love looking through my old notes from conventions, Pioneer seminars, and I'm like, and things that I underlined or things I thought were so important to write down. Oh wait, Mark's got something for us.
So here's, you know, believe it or not, people that know me know that I save everything. I don't mean like being a hoarder, but I mean as far as literature, research material,
Snoopy
books.
Toys,
and yeah, of course, we all love Snoopy. So in fact, Snoopy's going to sit with me while I talk about this. But no, I actually, the one thing I started to get rid of was my public talk outlines, and I don't know why. One day I just started pulling them out and just shredding them, and I mean, it wasn't a terrible number of public talks. I don't remember, a few dozen I gave during the course, but then I stopped myself, and sorry, I think I muted myself. I found this is talk outline number 132, the resurrection.
Okay.
So this is
very
actually
organized.
This is the very last talk I gave, and this was back when they were 45-minute public talks.
Yeah.
And in fact, I gave 2 public talks in one day. And I talk about this, I think, a little bit in my interview with you, Lloyd, when we did that, I don't know, a couple of years ago. We had a scenario where I was scheduled to give a talk on a Sunday, and that was in my congregation. But then about 4 or 5 days before, an elder from another congregation called me up and said, we have, and this happened all the time, you know, an elder would cancel, or a speaker would cancel and say, can you come over to this other congregation and give a talk? And then usually there's a protocol where, you know, the elders approve that in both congregations. And I told him, I said, well, as long as it's approved. And he calls me back and says, yeah, it's all approved, good to go. And so I went and gave both talks, but not before I got a phone call from the then presiding overseer of our congregation at between 11 and 12. It was almost midnight the night before the talk, which was Sunday. The first talk was in my congregation in Perry Hall, and called up and said, you weren't authorized to give that talk to the other congregation. I didn't approve that. And, you know, I was actually still finishing working on the talk, and I just had it with the guy. I hung up on him, and I was furious. And so I'm not going to go into telling that whole long story again, because it was very uncomfortable. Just a weird, you know, that was really a wake up call for me, I think. But I ended up giving both public talks the next day. And this was the talk, which was, oh, wait a minute. Is this the one? Oh, well, this is an outline. Do the miracles of the Bible really happen? That's an interesting one. But actually, my talk was the resurrection, victory over death. So The one thing that I remember about this public talk is that my reasoning ability was really bothering me that I used the Bible to prove itself, because I gave this talk full well knowing that. So I think there are 6 resurrections in the Bible, and I thought it would be interesting to go through each resurrection that's mentioned in the Bible. So I did, and that was part of the way that I developed the theme, and I thought it was interesting that there were 6 resurrections in the Bible. But I remember thinking that we had this reasoning that when Jesus, who was not one of the 6, by the way, and so Jesus, when he was resurrected, Jehovah's Witnesses have always said we have proof of that because the Bible says that, is it the book of Acts? It says that there were 500 or more people who witnessed that resurrection. And so I grew up in this mindset of all the JWs around me saying, well, we have evidence that Jesus was resurrected, and we know that because the Bible says that over 500 people witnessed that resurrection. So it's the Bible interpreting itself. It's the Bible proving itself. And I thought, I'm using this reasoning and I don't like it. So I think, as I recall, I did not use that reasoning in my public talk. I just talked about those 6 resurrections, and I really kind of made it more faith-based, because that really is
even though that is the actual reasoning that Watchtower wanted you to use.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm trying to see if I have a copy of the actual outline. I've actually got my entire talk here written out in semi-outline format. But I was more interested in the, Acts 24:15. I have hope towards men, which hope these men themselves also entertain, that there's going to be a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous.
Did you have all of your talks in those white binders with the title of the talk and the number on the spine? I'd be really impressed if you did.
Of course I did.
All of them were in those binders, identical.
Yes.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah, but I didn't have. I wasn't giving 100 talks. It was probably less than a dozen, honestly.
Mark's very organized.
But
yeah, well, I had a selection, but what I decided to do, because
which was the number of your talk again?
That was 132.
See that 132, the resurrection. Yeah, for some reason in this binder I don't have the correct outline. I have the let's see. Yeah, it's the resurrection, victory over death.
Arthur's looked up your talk on his screen share, so
that's
go,
it.
Mark.
Thank you, Arthur. Yeah,
I would say, Mark, I didn't know that you were shredding your outlines. You never told me that you had shred some of your outlines.
Yeah, I don't know why. Some of it just was so bogus that I thought, man, because it wasn't a society publication. It was just something. I usually don't even shred stuff that I write, because when I find something,
Yeah, Mark has letters and stuff that go back to his teenage years. He normally doesn't get rid of stuff like that. So
I have hundreds and hundreds of correspondence letters between me and my buddy, who turned out to be a circuit overseer and a missionary. And so I still have all that. In fact, he valued our communication so much that when he was invited to Gilead, about 15 years ago, almost 20 or 15. So 15. He was invited to Gilead and was sent to Africa. And so the communication letters that I had sent to him over a course of 10 years or 15, whatever years, it was a long time since we were teenagers and in high school, he actually took all of that correspondence and brought it to me in Baltimore and said, I want you to keep this, because they sold everything. They sold their trailer home, all their possessions. They actually returned gifts that we had given them for their 10th anniversary and said, we're going to Africa. We can't take anything. Literally, we can't take anything. And they got rid of all of their possessions, but he gave me back, I have them right here in my office, a massive stack of letters of our correspondence. So I'd like to document all of that sometime, because it's sort of like a portrait of where my mind was as a witness back in the early 80s, all the way through, the 90s, and how we saw each other through our theocratic careers, but his in particular, because he, was a pioneer. Then he got accepted to Bethel, was in Brooklyn for 5 years and had all these experiences, even finally being asked to leave and having to sit down with a governing body member. I think it was Dan Sidlick at the time. And then he goes back to the Carolinas and starts pioneering and regains his composure, becomes an elder, ultimately gets married and is pioneering with his wife. And then they get the call to Gilead right before the cutoff age, which is 39. And so they wind up going to Africa. So really good friends of ours. But we have this correspondence, and it's really kind of meaningful to look back on that. Don't
you find, though, that when you read your old correspondence, especially if it's you as a JW and you're talking about your beliefs, it can be a little bit stomach churning because you're not really reading your thoughts. You're reading the thoughts of you as a Jehovah's Witness. Because I had to do that quite a bit when I was researching for the Reluctant Apostate. I was actually finding the letters I was writing Dijana when I was a JW, saying things that I just don't agree with anymore. And it was a very unsettling experience.
Yeah, it's almost like you're regurgitating stuff,
But that's exactly why it's valuable.
One thing I have found, which I've started writing about it, and I'm going to figure out the best way to present that information. But, because I was going to meetings on my own at 12, and I really was looking to the congregation for a source of support because of the shattered home life that I was dealing with. My friend Steve, he was writing me little cards and letters. Other people in the congregation were writing me. They were telling me how much I meant to the congregation, how faith strengthening I was. They were giving me sample experiences from the Young People Ask book and from Watchtower and Awake magazines. And it really influenced, me to be stoic in my beliefs. And it really made an impact on me. So looking back at that is, I can really see how that formed, my theocratic kind of pathway, this personal interest that Steve had taken with me. And so at some point I'd like to kind of put that all together and write about that.
Yeah.
You should do. I'd be fascinated to read it. Oh, there we go. Kingdom Ministry School 2001.
Look, another white binder, Lord.
Look at this.
Mark's been a record keeper apparently for a very long time.
I'm sure your local Staples store was a massive fan of you, Mark. Whenever you walked through the doors, it was ka-ching.
Well, these are probably 50-cent binders, but I would buy the page protectors. So everything had to be in page protectors and nice and organized. But actually, I forgot that I had this Kingdom Ministry School for Ministerial Servants, and that was 2002 service year.
I see your Kingdom Ministry School folder, and I raise you my
Das Elder binder,
my Ministerial Training School notes.
Ooh.
So there we are.
Did you? Is that's okay? That's self-bound. So you did a hole punch on that.
Yeah.
MTS 29. That sounds like a disease.
COVID-19 MTS 29.
I would say that's why I listened to Lloyd, though. When I saw that he went to MTS, I said, he's not a fringe apostate. He is somebody that was serious about the religion, and if he's out, he must be saying something of substance. Now, look at that handwriting.
Wow.
Those are my notes.
Look at that. He went to Catholic school.
Nice handwriting, Lloyd.
Thank you very much. I was really fastidious about my note taking at MTS because I actually spoke to someone who'd been so that I could get an idea of how things were organized. And I actually had binders set up. That's why I was asking Mark about his binders, because I had my own binders set up for each unit. And I even invented a letterhead system because you can see there. Let me just show you an example.
I love it.
There's a letterhead, and that's not printed by Watchtower. I printed that. So it had it just looks a bit more better organized, So yeah, I took it very seriously, and I have occasionally had, referred to these when I've been doing my research, but for the most part, I must say, what you learn at MTS is basically just a rebranding of what most witnesses have in their literature.
Yes,
but
you get
more organized.
You get a diploma.
Yeah, you get a diploma, which I also have. Just bear with me.
Yeah, I like looking through my Pioneer School book sometimes and seeing all my notes, and I took it so serious. I had so many notes.
So there's the diploma.
Oh, wow.
certificate. James Lloyd Evans. Is that Derby, England?
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I have that in my office just as a
Lifetime ago,
keepsake.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So we had a that should be.
And we also have it in the reluctant apostate.
Indeed.
Well, I think it's important to demonstrate these. Sorry, these so-called credentials, because in general, many of us had a good JW experience. I mean, you had good times going to ministerial training school and serving in the capacity you did, and giving public talks and helping people in the congregation. And I largely had the same experience being a servant for over 10 years, although I didn't really have that deep aspiration to being an elder. Although I found that really what happened was you just put yourself in that position, then you end up getting appointed. I remember, being a ministerial servant, I never campaigned for that. And they just got to the point where they, said, well, we better appoint him.
I think that you do need to sort, and we're at the 90-minute mark, by the way, but it's just getting interesting now. I think that to a degree you need to push for it, and it was something that I wanted a great deal. So I can remember having conversations in the preaching work with my group overseer, and I actually used the scripture, expectation postponed is making the heart sick. And I said, when I'm being told circuit overseers visit after circuit overseers visit, we're considering you as an elder. We're considering you as an elder. And visit after visit after visit goes by and it doesn't happen. I mean, it's going to have an effect. It would be better if you just didn't give me that expectation and just let me go on with what I'm doing, And I think it was either at the next visit or the visit after that they appointed me. So to a degree, you've got to kind of put the heat on, I think.
Show that you're a team player, and show that you're.
Well, yeah, because if you don't want it at all, you're never going to get appointed.
Yeah,
because you're supposed to be reaching out. And reaching out is
making yourself available and showing the body of elders that you are cooperative.
They want you to desire to be in this position.
Yeah,
and
Mark was too cool for
Come
school.
on, Lloyd, show him that you're a capable brother.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Take the lead, Lloyd.
I remember one of the elders.
Arthur's mic is cut out there, so go on, Mark.
Oh, sorry, that's okay.
It's a joke, Mark.
I don't know. I remember I was not yet appointed when our local brothers in RBC were called to go down to Costa Rica to build a Kingdom Hall. And it was not San Jose Kingdom Hall. It was deep in the heart. I mean, deep in Costa Rica, like on the Panamanian border. We had to board after we flew to Costa Rica, we had to board a bus and drive throughout the night on hairpin turns through mountains without guardrails, and got all the way down to the Panamanian border to a little town called Rio Claro. And they didn't even allow sisters to go on this trip because the conditions were so primitive. There were no bathrooms. We just had an outhouse, and there was no hot water or anything. We took showers behind. We would set up a tarp, and it was 105 degrees, during the day, and 95 at night. And it was just constant sweat pouring over us. And we were there for a week building this little tiny Kingdom Hall in an area where they just set up a shanty for their assemblies. And we would shower at night and just had a tarp set up with a pipe sticking out of the ground that was turned, and water would come down, and that was your shower. And I remember that one of our local elders in my congregation came up to me, and he's like, we're having this broad scale male bonding, thing going on with all the brothers, because you're in this environment for a week, building in these horrible conditions. And, he wanted to talk to me about, at that point, becoming a ministerial servant. And they had done what happened to you, Lloyd, which was the expectation postponed. And he did it again. He's like, man, you are that close. You're that close. I don't know what's holding you back, but you're that close, And then it wasn't that long after that, within a year or so, I was appointed. But
Mm.
they really dangle it like a carrot.
Mm. It's like there has to be a meeting in the middle. They approach you, and you've got to kind of approach them. And when you have those two things, provided there's enough need, it's almost inevitably going to happen. You know,
Supply and demand.
Indeed. But that brings us to well over the 90-minute mark. I have to sincerely thank my excellent panel, who have provided much interesting chat over the course of the last hour or so. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for
You're
having us.
welcome. Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
It's always a pleasure to have a nice chat.
Yeah,
Indeed. Just a
and
reminder
an uplifting one.
Don't start, Arthur. I have my finger poised over the mute button. Just a reminder that if you do want to send in a voicemail, this is the email address, the URL that you need to use, speakpipe.com/Cedars. Alternatively, if you would like to send in a short video, perhaps as an unlisted YouTube link, this is the email to use. We'd love to hear from as many of you as possible. It's been lovely to hear from the 100 plus who've been in rapt attention, hopefully, during today's conversation. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you have found this an enjoyable conversation. Do remember to stay safe and stay positive, and we shall see you in the next coronavirus lockdown live stream. Take care.
Thank you for watching.
Bye, everyone.